David Bowerly here. Welcome to another episode of Furniture Restoration. Enjoy. So, welcome back to my studio. This is David Bowerly, and I'm starting out here with some relatively easy pieces, or easier pieces, that are ones that are pretty basic and that people can get started on, that don't require a huge amount of tools or actually even a lot of skill involved. They just require a lot of labor and some attention. So this got this beautiful mid-century modern end table. It's solid walnut, and I'm guessing it's probably mid-1950s. It's got this incredible tile on it, and it's got this beautiful little pier here with a lower shelf. It's about 8 inches. And it's got these beautiful tapered legs that are coming off of the bottom. There's a plate there that'll go on there. And it'll end up at about a height of 23 inches or so. And the legs, everything on it is all solid walnut. And the tiles are extraordinary. I want to take a pretty good look at these tiles. Personally, I've never seen a piece with tiles on it like this that are with this motif. It's got a bit of Egyptian, it's got some neoclassic stuff in it. It's even got what looked like to be almost some Native American stuff in it. It's really quite unique, and it's old enough that this is finished in lacquer. I'm just certain of it, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to deal with removing the lacquer on this piece. So this is a pretty simple piece. There's not any damage on it, so we don't have to worry about doing repairs to anything. The big thing is I think it's important to distinguish between refinishing a piece and restoration. It looks like I'm going to be able to restore this piece, and so the lacquer on this is old enough and it's crazed that I think it's going to come off pretty easy. So first, I'm going to try a scraper, and in this card scraper, I'm gonna clamp this down so I can actually make it work right. This card scraper is a wonderful tool, and it will take away the finish relatively easy. Now, a lot of times I'll use a chemical stripper, and I have access to methylene chloride strippers, which are the best strippers to use. Homeowners don't have that available to them anymore, and there are some relatively good strippers out there, but this doesn't really need it. This can be done strictly by hand to scrape it and get it all cleaned up using some sort of abrasive technique. Now, you want to be careful on a rounded edge like this, and I'm just not applying any pressure at all, hardly at that. I'm just lightly going over it. Once you do that, then you can go over it with some 120 sandpaper. And boy, that just is perfect. So that's a card scraper. So this is a carbide tip scraper. These are pricey. I have no idea what they are anymore, but I know this was expensive when I bought it 30 years ago. And these have a really wonderful sharp edge on them. And if you're careful and slow about it, it'll take away that lacquer that's flaking on the surface. And that's coming relatively simple. That's coming for me really well. I'm pleased with that. And a lot of it is because the piece is so old this lacquer has lost all of its elasticity, and it's pretty brittle, and it's going to come off nicely. So that's, I mean, and this is solid walnut, and you know, you can do this with veneer, but with veneer you got to be more careful. This walnut takes a lot, and I can do an awful lot to it without having to worry about going through a veneer that's you know 1/32 or 1/64 of an inch thick, and it doesn't take much time to go through it if you're buzzing through it with a sandpaper or something. So that's those. Now, one of the things that I use the most is a simple razor blade. A nice sharp razor blade really works great on a surface like this, and it works with the same principle as that card scraper, but it's something that I can use relatively easy, and you know, on a curved edge it kind of gives me a little bit more control. So I'm going to just scrape the entire piece, and it's going to be relatively easy to do, and probably take less time than it would if I were to use a chemical stripper, and I would use a methylene chloride and wash it with acetone, and then sand it very lightly with a scuff pad. That's about all I would do to it. I don't know. I don't think that this piece, if it was stained, it had an incredibly mild stain on it. This seems to be pretty natural. So I don't want to disturb the color of it. Walnut, as it ages, UV rays change it to this really nice, warm, orangish color. So I don't want to eat into the fibers very far, because then it's going to turn it back to the original color of walnut, which is kind of a purplish reddish cast. And I want to stay with this aged walnut look. This top was you know, exposed to a lot more light than this was. Now the edges probably have that orange cast to them, but this is probably pretty close to what the original color was in the center here, where the UV rays weren't bleeding out the color. And I'm gonna see what I can do here. Now I'm putting a lot of pressure on this as I'm scraping across, and I'm being really careful not to drag the corners of it. And you can see, I don't know, maybe Dave, can you pick up the difference in the color in this? I mean, look at that. Can you get this difference here? This reddish. Now that has no UV rays or sunlight on it. This is the top that has been totally bleached out, and I mean, I love this color of walnut after it gets to be, you know, 50, 60 years old. It's really quite gorgeous. So on this shelf piece, the finish on it actually is in much better shape than the top was, and a lot of that has to do with the amount of UV rays that have deteriorated that top finish to the point where it's almost non-existent. It's just flaking right off. This has some pretty good hold to it, and so using this carbide scraper actually does a good job of getting it in. And I like going in a real small cut like that, where I can stay on the cutting edge of it. And it you know, it just takes some time, and it can be done. Neither the top nor this shelf has hardly any dents or scratches or deep wear on it. This had to be in a fairly high-end environment in a rather nice home where it didn't see a lot of abuse. This was quite the table. So I'll go ahead and continue scraping this. And the two questions I need to answer are, what do I do about matching the color of this shelf piece to the top? I mean, if you look at this darn thing, I mean, the difference in the color of those two is really dramatic. And, I could stain this back to this original. I mean, that seems to me to be raw walnut. That doesn't seem to have been stained. I could do that. That would bring it back to what it originally was, yet it would erase the 70 years of UV rays bleaching this top out. So I'm more prone to just leave the color as it is, as long as I can get a good color all the way around, and live with that variation in it, and that's okay. The other thing is, do I want to refinish this or restore this with a nitrocellulose lacquer, or do I want to use something that people, DIYers, could do at home? So there's these new hard waxes out. The one that I think I like a lot is it's called Rubio Monocoat, and it's a no-brainer. I mean, it's very expensive, but it is a simple application that anybody can use. And the other would be to go ahead and use a nitrocellulose lacquer, which I'd use a nitrocellulose sealer first to seal the piece, and then I'd spray, 4 or 5 coats of nitrocellulose lacquer, sanding in between, and do one final coat, probably in a low satin sheen. So by the time I come back, I will have this scraped and sanded as lightly as I can. I don't want to sand any more than I have to, and ready to finish. And I'll have made that decision by then. If I go ahead with a nitrocellulose lacquer, I'll spray that in my booth. If I use a Rubio Monocoat, and I'll use that on something here, on one of the pieces coming up. If I use that on this, I'll show you how it's done, and we'll do it together. But I'm going to have to think on this a little bit, and we'll go from there. Hello, welcome back, and I'm going to show you what this beautiful coffee table, or not coffee table, end table, ended up looking like after just a simple stripping and sanding. This is that Mid-Century Modern solid walnut end table with these gorgeous tiles on it. This was really a nice simple project. It has these pencil legs and these nice brass capped feet on them. They're solid brass. So I buffed that brass out and coated it with some brass lacquer. Took the whole thing apart. It was all in pieces, and I was able to strip everything quite easily, and then just very lightly sanded the piece. I wanted to retain the color of the walnut, because walnut changes with UV rays over time. It gets a nice kind of orange tone to it, and I didn't want to lose that orange tone in it, so I just very lightly scuffed everything, mostly with a 3M scuff pad, a fine one, and then went over it with some acetone for a final clean, and then refinished it. I used a vinyl sealer on this, and 2 coats of a pre-catalyzed lacquer. It's really hard, and it's pretty much bulletproof for heavy use. And so, being an end table, this could see glasses with alcohol in them or water set on. Mostly they'll sit on the tiles, but if they sit on the edge of this wood, I don't want watermarks to form. And so that's what I chose to use. Now, I've got a commercial shop, so I can spray that easily and end up with a really good finish. Now, in the future, we'll go over a number of finishes that you can use at home that are durable enough. And I've got 50 years of experience doing this, and so I'm mostly experienced with using commercial finishes. But I want to be able to show you finishes that you can use so you can do yourself. This one ended up absolutely gorgeous. This was a really simple project. It would have made a great project for somebody to do at home. It came apart easily, and it went back together easily. There were no marks, no stamps or any paper labels on this, so I don't know who the manufacturer is. But it's solid walnut, and it's got these gorgeous tiles on it. And I'm guessing by the style of it that this is late 50s, maybe mid 50s, when kind of that MCM was starting to peak. And this was a high quality piece. I want to go over the tiles though and show you a bit about these tiles because they are incredibly unique. If you look at this corner here, this has kind of some stylized flowers there. On this opposite corner, there's a stylized female form there. And then in the little block above it going in, there's these kind of two human-like figures facing each other. There's a bunch of these figures that are almost Egyptian in influence. And then on the other two corners, there's these rather kind of scarecrow type figures that are facing each other from end to end. But there's a lot of lightly stamped areas where it's meant to look like the tiling and the imprinting has been worn off through age. Now these are duplicated tiles, so that's the same wear look as there is in this tile over here. So I mean they're exactly the same. The wear is meant to be there from the day this was made. They were incredibly skillfully made. So if you go back over here, Dave, and look at this, I mean the different areas in this and the representations are almost like hieroglyphics. This stylized figure here with this little block of two people facing each other. On the opposite side of it, there's kind of another stylized figure of two people facing each other. I don't know if that's dancing or what, but I mean it's got these beautiful little blocks areas, and they're almost mythological in their representations, but they're just unbelievably cool. And I think that's where this piece really has its greatest value, is in these 9 tiles. I've done a lot of research trying to find some information on these, and I just can't find any. The internet's getting harder and harder to find specific information on things. They just want to sell you stuff. But somebody out there knows something about these, and hopefully, maybe if you're watching and you do know something about these, get a hold of me, contact me, let me know. Teach me. But this is going to go into a home. This will be an end table that'll sit at the end of a beautiful Milo Brofman sofa that's a beautiful Brazilian rosewood piece. And it'll look fantastic in their home. It's kind of a mid-century home, and so it's going to a nice place. So thanks for watching. Hi, David Bowerly signing off here. And if you learned something, if you got questions, or even if you got an idea for a future topic, just subscribe below. Thanks.